Good afternoon, Fearless. Nice to see everyone again. I am in beautiful BC, and I don't know if you can hear the rain dripping, or not the rain, but the melting snow dripping. We're on the mountain in Panorama, BC. It's just gorgeous. And my backdrop was set up by some young snowboarder guys that are with us. I asked them to make it look cool in the background. So here's our cool version of the mountains. So welcome, guys. We've got a great topic tonight, one that's definitely kind of a little bit of a tough one to navigate. And we've got some pros with us tonight. So there are Ignited members, Mike and Julie Conrad, Andre and Sylvia Lancette, I think. I actually meant, yeah, okay, good, got it. I meant to confirm that with you guys, but anyways, I just know you as Andre and Sylvie. So, but how do we deal with some of these, little bit of tougher issues that we have as investors? We got to hit our targets. We have to hit our financial goals. We have to pay back our investors. We have to, compensate our joint venture partners. How do we do all of that yet? While being good humans and trying really hard to deal with people as good as we can, because that's tough. It's a really tough balance to find. So we're going to talk to these guys who have found that balance. I'm sure not fully and not perfectly, but here and there they've been able to do that on their BRRRRs. They're investing mostly in Ottawa, and so there's lots of landlord and tenant laws around that, and tough to raise rents, but they're taking these these buildings, they're making them beautiful, they're raising the rents, and they're hitting their targets, yet while having their tenants be really happy. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So thanks, guys, for saying hello as you jump on. That's great. All over the place. Hey, so Cape Breton, that's so awesome. We were out there, Lisa. I didn't realize you were from out there. We just loved it. We spent almost a week out there, I think. Yes, and Panorama. I'll say it how my nieces do. Panorama. Let's go to Panorama. All right, guys. So I'm going to bring on Mike and Julie and Andre and Sylvie. There we go.
Hello.
Let's see. Let me play with these settings a little bit. Nope, that's not the one. Nope. All right. All right. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us. You guys are an awesome example for us, and we want to pick your brains tonight, if that's okay for you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, so maybe give us a quick rundown first of who y'all are and how you know each other and what you've been up to. And whoever wants to start can jump in on that.
Go ahead, Sylvie.
So Andre and I are in Ottawa, and as are Julie and Michael. We've been friends for probably 7 years now. We've both had experience with property management and real estate for probably the last 30 years. And just recently, we partnered up with Julie and Michael to start investing in some multi-unit family buildings.
Yeah, awesome. So partnered up. So you guys were both investing separately from each other, and then decided to start partnering up. And what have you guys been working on lately? Mike, maybe you can grab that one.
Yeah, so Sylvie and Andre pretty much came up to us and said, well, we have this 8-plex under contract, and they were looking to possibly partner because all 4 of us are working full time. So four heads are better than one. So that's how that came about. And we've been in that process of renovating that 8-plex for the last year.
But before we renovated, like when we bought this 8-plex, it was fully tenanted. And so we needed to make sure that we knew the rules, that we followed the rules, and that we follow Corey and Tiffany's #1 rule, and to be good humans about it. So we wanted to do this in a way that was fair, that was really speaking to people's needs. Like I put myself in these people's places. I remember having conversations with Mike, Sylvie, and Andre and saying, this is their home. Imagine if this was our home. Like, we have to put ourselves in their shoes, right? How would we want to be treated? And so that's how we treated them. We treated them like how, not so much how we wanted to be treated, but how they needed to be treated, with lots of care and lots of compassion.
Okay, so and care and compassion. So, great tips. Like you said, we had to know the rules, then we had to follow the rules, but then we added in that care and compassion. So let me ask you about that, because so you guys are in Ontario and you guys have, a pretty tough LTV. You guys have some, pretty strict, how often are you allowed to raise rents and by how much?
So we have an annual increase allowed, and it's generally set by the province. For example, last year it was a moratorium because of COVID, and this year it's 1.2%. So
Okay.
it's minute.
Yeah, that's so at 1.2%, guys. You buy a building, it's an Aplex. Obviously, you have to put some money into it. It's not for sale because it's the most nice one on the block, I'm sure. It needs a little bit of help, a little bit of work. You're putting money in. Now, the plan would be, was it a BRRR? Was the plan to buy it, renovate it, refinance it, and then re-rent it all out?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And doing this with 8 units, right? And a building, when we bought it, that had 7 sets of tenants. There was only 1 unit that was vacant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you're going into this with 7 human beings that you have to deal with. Was that stressful?
Very,
Very.
very, because I mean, it's not something that you want to do. You buy a building to make it better. You buy a building to, obviously, this is still a business. So we still have to meet the ROI goals of our investors. We need to make this building perform. But at the same time, you're dealing with 7 sets of tenants, and they're all in different circumstances, from different backgrounds. They all have different histories. Some of them had been there for 15, 16 years. This was their home. So we needed to find a way to make it possible and to motivate them to move and to, in the end, sever their relationship with the landlord in this case. Because that's the only way that you can raise rents, is if once you've vacated the building, there are rules where, one, you have to give them a certain amount of cash for any renovation or renovation that's required, and if they have to move out, you have to give them a minimum of 3 months rent. You also have to give them, they have a right of first refusal to come back at the same rent. So to sever that relationship, there's a separate process for that, and there's a voluntary process, but it's hard to motivate a tenant to sign that form basically and sever that relationship without a bit of incentive. And in this case, it's a bit of everything, right?
Yeah. So in Ontario, if you're just going to evict to give it a paint job and then re-rent it, that won't happen. It's against the rules. They have the right to move back in once you're done. So it has to be for specific reasons.
For very substantial renovations, right?
Okay, so you could go into a building, have a tenant in there, put whatever 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand into a unit, and then you have to give them first right of refusal
At the same rent.
At the same rent. Yeah, that's actually a detail I did not realize. So that's crazy. So to me, honestly, Ontario sounds like a very difficult place to be doing BRRRRs, but yet here you are doing them. That was your first one. You've since done some more. You now have another one on contract. You guys are going nuts out there, and you're able to do it smiling. Both of you. We're smiling, so that's a good thing. And you even have tenants that are smiling. So let's back up for a couple of things. There's 2 questions I have for you. So one, you said we had to plan. So did you plan for this from the beginning? Like in the beginning when you were figuring out your numbers, did you plan for? You did. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was financially, you planned extra money in there and extra time?
We did. Yeah.
Okay.
So we like literally put in an offer on this building in August and took possession in January. So we already knew we had some lead time, and we put in a budget for the incentive, what's called a cash for keys strategy with our tenants. So we had put aside a specific amount per unit, and we tried to stick to it as much as possible. But at the same time, we needed to take possession of the building, meet the tenants, learn to know what their situations were, what would it mean for them to move, what did they need to be able to move, and that's what we basically had budgeted for. So we knew the requirements in Ontario are 3 months rent minimum.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. Like, so 3 months rent minimum, that's mandated by the government. I didn't actually realize that either. I thought that when, doing cash for keys in Ontario is pretty standard. I thought that was like, oh, let's work around this and give them an incentive. They know that that's the minimum that they're going to get.
Yeah, and we did give them the notice which basically triggers that process, right? So the cash for keys came after.
Okay. So what other things did you do to help mitigate, I mean, both financially and humanly, to help mitigate that, hello, I've lived here for 17 years and now you're telling me I have to move? So you said you went and you met them, you talked to, you did this yourself, or did you have a property manager do it?
We did it.
We did it,
Yeah.
but because our partnership is set up that AS Management, Andre's property management company, was the property manager for the building. So we did it without basically advertising that we were the owners, right?
Perfect. Yeah. So you did it as a third party. So you went in saying, we have people that we need to be accountable to. So how can we make this good for everyone, kind of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah. And one of the biggest strategies we also had was we were very transparent with the issues in the building to the tenants. We had a professional company come in to test for asbestos, lead, mold, that type of stuff. We knew the electrical system, pest management. We were upfront with them about all these issues.
Okay.
So a lot of the tenants didn't actually realize some of these issues existed.
And some of these issues came up when we were doing our inspection to buy the building, right? It didn't just come up because we felt like doing inspections. It was clear that these are issues that needed to be fixed.
Yeah.
This is what prompted us to apply the BRRRR strategy, right? In the first place, we didn't just decide we're going to renovate this building top to bottom, right? There was evidence, there were reports, there were appraisals, there were inspection reports that indicated that the building needed some serious repair. And the building was really unsafe for the tenants living there. There was significant mold. There was lead paint that was chipping off everywhere. As Andre mentioned, there were pests that the previous owner didn't tell us about. And there was a serious risk of fire, which was further detected when we removed when we had the asbestos removed and we looked at the charring of the wood. It was just incredible. And that's what helped us sleep at night, is knowing that these tenants are better off living in another location, because this building right now is not a safe place for them. So what we did was we had regular communications with them, right? We were giving them tons of notices. We were, as Andre said, we were very transparent and clear about what we were doing, what our plans were. We offered them some assistance in additional money to help them, pay for maybe an apartment that's a little bit more expensive. So the cash for keys strategy is there to help bridge the gap between that difference in rent. We offered them not only money for moving, but Sylvie and Andre organized the whole moving for them. They booked it. They were there helping. We provided them with boxes, with moving supplies. We even would send them links to rental properties so that they could find, like we asked them, where do you want to live? Do you want to stay in this area? And we would do Google searches every other day, send them links. So we really tried to hold their hands through this process, and I think they really appreciated that in the end.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
and some of the smaller things, like we even offered to if they had an old couch, no problem, leave it behind. We'll dispose of it for you. An old bedroom set, anything you want to leave behind, leave it behind. We'll dispose of it for you free of charge.
nice. Okay, so like I'm trying to picture myself, being, someone lived in a building for 17 years and someone came in and said, hey, listen, we're selling, or we bought this building, or there's new owners and it looks like there's going to be substantial renovations and that does mean your rent is going to have to go up. Do you just say right out, are you wanting to stay or do you want to leave? Like, do you give them an option right away, or how does that conversation go when you first approach them and say, basically, we want you to move, but don't worry, we'll help you? Like, I don't know that would be okay by me if I'd been there. I'd be like, what do you mean you think you want me to move? So how does that conversation go at first?
So from day one, when we owned the building, we were in communication with our tenants to explain to them the extent of the renovations that would be needed to the building. We basically slowly brought them into the reality of how extensive the renovations would be and how long it would take. Like, this renovation is 12 months plus. It's not a 5-month thing where they can literally go, couch surf and come back. That wouldn't be the situation. So we slowly went through the whole process. And once we gave them the formal notice, that gives them 4 months to find a new place to live. But it doesn't necessarily remove that, right of coming back at the same rent. So that's why we then proceeded to the cash for keys situation, where it's basically giving them an incentive to accept that they're not going to be coming back. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to move twice. Like, why would you move twice? And at the same time, once it's to help them find a place that they find that they're comfortable moving to and moving to permanently. Because we had to help them understand that it wasn't going to be a short-term thing, and realistically, coming back at this or expecting us to accept them all back at the same rent would not be sustainable, because the building wouldn't sustain itself.
Okay, so the cash for keys is not the 3 months worth of rent that you budgeted for. I thought that it was. So the cash for keys is, in addition to the mandated 3 months worth of rent, we are also going to pay you to not come back. How do you say that?
Well, it's basically, it's an incentive to sever your relationship with the landlord permanently.
Okay, and they understand what they're doing, and they understand that means they can't come back and they're getting rid of their rights.
So there's another form mandated by the LTB. So it's an N11. It's a form that basically creates a voluntary arrangement between the landlord and the tenant, and both have to agree and both have to sign this document that basically you're moving out on a certain date, and you basically give up your right of first refusal to come back.
Okay.
Which is why it's important to help them find a place to live that's better than the place they were living in. So back to your example, Tiffany, you might think that you're living in a really great place, but we have evidence that says different, right? And so we're going to help you find a place that's actually not going to catch fire. It's going to have, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be way more comfortable for you. Like, one of our tenants wanted to move closer to the downtown core, so we helped her find a place there. It's one of those situations where Ray, I think I saw a comment, find out what their struggles are and be the solution, right? So it's really about having those conversations and helping them find their way to a better place. Because sure, our apartments are going to be better once they're done, but is it realistic for us to put all of this money and renovation into a building and then not expect to have, to offer a rent that's reasonable for a brand new building? Essentially, it's what we're doing. We're rebuilding it brand new, right? So it's helping them understand, that the space they're living in right now, from a numbers perspective, it's cheap. But there are other apartments out there that our equivalent or a little bit more, and that's why we give a little bit of extra money to make sure that they have enough to carry them through to this transition period for the next 2 years, right?
Okay, so do you kind of bridge and are you okay telling us like what that amount is and how, so if they're, let's say, moving from a place that's 800 a month and now they're going to pay 1,200 a month, you kind of help bridge that gap?
So the mandated amount is 3 months rent. On average in this building, the monthly rent was about $1,000 a month. For 2-bedroom units that are 1,000 square feet. So just to give you a bit of an example. So they were looking for an equivalent unit elsewhere. And some of our tenants were able to find another 2-bedroom unit, maybe slightly smaller, but a 2-bedroom unit for $3 more a month. Others ended up in a different location. They ended up paying, let's say, $1,300 a month. Each one of them chose where they wanted to go. But at the same time, they were looking at it from a financial perspective. They then had behind them the idea that, okay, so in all of this, let's say we're paying $1,200 a month, which means $200 more than they were paying currently. Yeah, but we have $6,000 in the bank, which is basically what we gave all of them. So
on top of their 3 months.
So they're $3,000 that was mandated plus an extra $3,000, and then on top of that, the $1,000 to move. So the movers were organized and paid directly by us, so they didn't have to pay movers. They didn't have to figure out who. We negotiated a contract with one moving company. They moved them all out in the space of about a week. It was all one after the other. But
you paid for that? You paid for the movers.
We paid for the movers. We paid for the boxes, the moving supplies, and we scheduled it all. I was on site for every move, making sure that it was being done properly. That their furniture and things were well respected, and everything was going out. I even brought 1 or 2 of the tenants to their new place because they don't have vehicles, so they were, we brought them to their new house with the movers as they were going.
Wow.
We've since then sent some of their mail, brought them their mail, but brought a few other things that have transpired after they had moved.
We even hired one of them to help us on the rent on the demolition.
Nice.
Yeah. But just to say, like, we had one set of tenants, for example, they declared bankruptcy just before Christmas. So they didn't even have money to take a taxi to go and look for a place, let alone rent a new place, have the first and last month's rent, and be able to, take on all of this. Well, they came back to us and said, you have no idea how your offer has changed our lease on life. We've declared bankruptcy, yes, but we've been able to, pay off debts. We've bought a bit of new furniture, and we've got a bit of money in the bank to pay the addition, $50 more a month rent. And we're happy where we are. It's a better location, more accessible to transit, more to this, to that. And it's you've changed our life. We thought we were stuck.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, that right there. I mean, I can say, oh, that right there is worth it. But worth what? That was a lot of work.
Yeah. It was a lot of work. But at the same time, it was rewarding at the end because we didn't feel that we'd left our tenants down. Yeah. Like they had basically what they needed to move. And not regretting it completely. Like, at the end of the day, we also have to sleep at night, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And for me, like, doing the BRRRR strategy, that's the hard part, is finding that balance between, hitting your numbers that you need to hit. Like, if you're going to do this, you got to be smart about it. It has to make sense. But then, like, okay, we have someone that lived there for 17 years. Now I can't deal with it. I'm out. Like, that's kind of my approach to it. But what you guys are saying is there's a better approach. And it sounds very much like, for a lot of people, their property manager might have to be a major team member in doing this strategy if you're doing it in these multi-units.
Oh, it's definitely.
Absolutely.
So Sarah's asking, is there a form that they sign to give up their rights in that comeback clause?
Yeah. So in Ontario, that's the N11 form.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another team member that's vital in all this is the paralegal. The paralegal was instrumental in how we went about all this and understanding all the rules, what we could and could not do, because you just do one wrong move here in Ontario and
You're back at the starting.
back at square
You're back
one.
to square one, exactly.
Yeah.
So-
So the
yeah.
paralegal, do you pay them like as a consultant, or do you pay them by the case, or how do you pay them?
It's
It
a flat
varies.
fee, yeah. But in our case, it was a flat fee
Yeah.
per tenant.
Yeah.
Okay, your tenant. Okay, so you have to also budget that.
Yes.
So you're budgeting now, like you're budgeting the government mandated 3 months. You're budgeting the cash for keys amount. Was that the same for every tenant, or did it vary depending on their circumstance?
Actually, it ended up, so we gave them two offers. One that would precipitate an earlier move and one that would give them more time. So depending on whether they wanted more time or more money, it gave them an opportunity to choose. And if you can imagine, within literally, the offer was sent, I think it was at 4:00 on a Friday night. By 6:00, I had 5 tenants saying, "When are you coming? I want to sign the form."
Yeah.
Amazing.
I said, "Well, we're going to be there in the morning. I'm not coming tonight, but we'll be there in the morning." You know?
Run over, I bet, though.
Yeah, they were just itching. It's like, "We want to sign right away." It's like, "Okay, yeah, no worries. It's not going away. We've got plenty of time."
Does the N11 give them a timeline? Like you have to sign by such and such date to get this offer, or such and such date to get that
Yeah.
offer?
The offer does, but the N11 is a separate form that basically gets registered with the LTB, so that it shows formally and legally that the relationship's been severed. But the offer as to how much money they got, that does not get submitted to the province.
And this is what we learned. This was where we received lots of guidance from our paralegal. Like Mike mentioned, that was instrumental really in helping us do it the right way, because just signing an N11 doesn't provide the details of the agreement, right? And so so we had offered, back to your question, we had there was one tenant in particular who hadn't signed, and so we had offered additional funds for that person. So the amount can vary.
Right.
It can vary in amount, and giving different timelines for signing the form is also a very good option, because some individuals wanted to move out right away, right? They were ready to go.
I remember you guys talking about that in Laser now that I think about it. And that was such an awesome way to approach it, is let's give them timelines, let's give them offers, and let them choose. Like, what a way to give a semblance of control back to people who probably feel like they've lost all control of their lives when their house is gone, I would think.
Right.
Do you guys know this? Is cash for keys probably a deductible expense?
That Michael, have we both?
I'm still doing the books on that one. I haven't asked that question yet, but
My understanding is that it is, because one, it's some of it is mandated, and the rest is it's basically a refund of money paid, of rent paid. So at the end of the day, I suspect it would be accounted as an expense. It definitely reduces the income anyways.
Yeah.
I just have to say, you guys, how amazing your team is. Like, just the way you guys all work together. Like, each person has a very defined, role. You each look like when that question came up, you all looked to Mike. Andre, you all you clearly have created a really cool partnership. When you're doing these, do you finance with joint venture partners, or are you financing with private lenders?
So on this particular building, we have a mortgage with a MIC, with a construction loan. And then on top of that, we have private lenders that have helped us with the closing costs and to sort of carry and get to the construction draws, right? So, on the next building, we're looking to actually fund it all privately, which is going to be scary, but at the same time, it'll be a great opportunity.
Oh, you guys will have no problem raising those funds. Like just the fact of how you guys do business and who you are, but how you do business. I also know, because you guys are Ignited members, and so we get to hear this stuff on a regular basis, that you're also very disciplined and driven in the number side of things too. So it's not like you're just these wonderful, beautiful hearts that are helping others. You are, but you're also really smart at what's the best way to go about this, how can we, and you're very strategic, so you'll have no problem getting your private funds. So Adrian's asking, how many people did you do this for? Was that 7?
So yeah, 7 offers went out all at the same time, and in the end 6 took us up on the offer, and the last tenant decided to take their opportunity to go to the LTB for a hearing. And so we went through that whole process. And unfortunately, the strategy that the tenant took and decided to pursue didn't yield for her the same results as the other tenant. So she basically had to leave, and she was evicted based on the evidence that we provided and whatnot. She had 2 weeks to leave when she was evicted. She only received the mandated amount, did not have movers, had to do it all by herself. So at the end of the day, it was unfortunate, but it was a choice that she made.
Okay, and see, this is the balance. This is the balance that you guys are kind, you're compassionate, you're so humanly empathetic, but at the same time, like, this is a choice she made. She could have gone this way. Instead, she dragged us through the LTB. There's the door. Like, you're not going to go out of your way now to go and appease and whatever else. Your job is done. You offered. You tried your best. Moving on.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, at the end of the day, the only thing that's left with that tenant is that we do not have an N11. So the landlord-tenant relationship technically is still there, and she technically still has a right of first refusal. However, in this particular case, there are conditions to that right of first refusal that weren't met. And so we are of the view that it's been severed, but we'll see. We may end up at the LTB. We'll see.
Yeah, but it sounds like you guys have done things by the book, and like, I mean, for the LTB to even give you that ruling was, I know that was a big thing, and you were celebrating big that day. So,
Yeah.
But obviously you're doing it right, and I think that's you've mentioned the paralegal, you've mentioned knowing the rules, following them. If you don't do this right, this can super backfire, can't it?
Oh yes.
Oh, it can, because there are fines. That's the issue. In Ontario, the LTB can issue some serious fines if it's found that you're issuing an N13 out of bad faith, and that you're basically, a lot of people could be seen as you're issuing an N13, but you're really going to put lipstick on this and re-rent it right away. You're not actually doing significant renovations. Whereas in our case, I mean, even at the LTB hearing, we were already far enough down the road that we had some significant pictures of everything we had to do. And the adjudicator basically looked at the pictures and said, it's like the landlords have clearly made their case that these renovations are required. So unfortunately, I have to issue an eviction notice, and that's that. It didn't take that long for the decision, let's say.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, so this question, so 3 plus 3 plus, blah, 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 8 units, is this 56 grand that you paid out pretty much?
Well, there weren't 8. There weren't 8. We had budgeted for 7, knowing that one of the units was vacant. And we had to add some additional costing in there for the paralegal.
And one person had actually left as soon as they knew the N13 was issued.
Right.
Yeah, he left without.
Yeah, he just didn't want to deal with everything that was going on, so he just left. So we basically only had to do it for 5.
It's true. See, Michael remembers more than we do because
But nonetheless, these are details that we don't know as we're doing our pro formas before, right? So you do want to budget for worst case scenario. So you're right. Whoever this is, you would budget for 56,000 plus 5,000 to 10,000 for your paralegal at minimum. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if someone thinks that this is extreme amounts of money, the last tenant that stayed for an extra 5 months also cost us money, if only in delays and timing and extra costs for having to work around a tenant,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
So
for sure.
it's worth the money. It is worth the money, if only to be able to carry on the work in the most efficient and effective way.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so Elisa's asking, do you have a paralegal you can recommend? Now, are you guys okay if I put your information up here for people to contact you? And
Anytime, yeah,
absolutely.
no, give us a call.
Absolutely.
Give us a call, email, anywhere, anything.
perfect. So you guys are also on Facebook Messenger. I know that, but here's your email. So Elisa, go ahead and grab them if you want to get in touch with these guys. Yeah, they're awesome resources, always willing to share, and yeah, just awesome. So I'm gonna leave this up here for a little bit, guys, because I'm sure there's a lot of people. I know so this is what I'm thinking. I'm sitting here going, okay, as a financial partner, I'm looking at you guys and I'm thinking, I don't want to be there for the move. Sylvie, I don't want people in my car. I mean, you're amazing. I have a thing where, like, I don't know where their clothes have been. I don't know if they have dandruff. Like, I have a thing. I have a hard time with people in my car. So the fact that you're even driving them to their, places and arranging movers, like, people, to arrange movers from one house to my own home is a huge thing, like, that I would never even want to do. Never mind and as a financial partner or as a private lender, I'd be making money off of this without ever having to even do any of that because you're doing it, which is terrible, but it's so great. So, anyways,
Yeah.
you're amazing. You guys,
Well, thank you. But at the same time, it was all about basically helping our tenants, right? At the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure that they're moved into a safe place, and at the same time, we can make this building a safer place for future tenants.
well, and that's it. So, when we think about like $56,000 plus 10 for a paralegal, I mean, when you look at the numbers on that, that's a ton of coin.
Yeah.
But how do the numbers actually work out for you guys after? Does that, I mean, obviously it still makes sense, but can you kind of enlighten us into how that works out for you?
So just if you look at the amount we paid for the building and where the building will be after the renovations, we're doubling the value of the building.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in terms of rents, it's probably, I'd say 1.25, so 125% increase in rents.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not affecting the tenants that were there. This is new tenants that will be taking on these rents that are in the market for that type of unit, right? So
right, and they're going into that knowing, choosing. So it's not like they're going to be upset at it. That's just they know that that's market rent, and they're actually looking for that.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, yeah, the money is going to increase. The money coming in, the expenses that we're paying will be reduced significantly because of how we're changing the building. We're also natural gas, hydro, etc., is all going to be paid by the tenant moving forward. We're actually moving this building from, I would say, I'll say a class C building into a class A building is what we're trying to do. So it's a luxury product at the end, not the same tenant demographic,
Right?
Because that whole area is changing. It's not, one way or the other, they would have been displaced, but not necessarily by nice people.
Right.
So
yeah, and that's one of the biggest things is this BRRRR strategy, or the catch keys, the way we did it, may not be for everyone in every market, in every neighborhood. We're lucky that we're in the city that we are. We found this building in the neighborhood where we wanted to be, where it's such an up and coming neighborhood that this is possible. So that's what made all these different steps possible was all these different factors. So
So you did your homework ahead of time, and you knew that that was going to be okay in that area. Whereas, there might be buildings you have to walk away from. Not, and I know you guys have, and I know you've not done this in places where it doesn't make sense to. So now that was your first one that you guys did, and you guys have since moved on, and you're growing like crazy and rolling and rocking and all that stuff. So are you factoring in this same strategy for your next buildings?
Well, funny enough,
Yeah. Julie, can you say where we are now?
we've been eyeing the sister building right beside this building, and we've been eyeing it for a year. We've actually put in 4 or 5 offers on this building in the span of a year. We've changed ownership of that building twice now, and guess what? We are going to be the new owners because we have now the building under contract, and because it's the exact same building. They were both built. They were both built at the same time. And you know what? The building's vacant. Yay!
Empty.
Are you kidding?
So
It's
a
vacant.
full out BRRR with having to vacate tenants is not the ideal strategy ever, but there's a way of doing it. But then, of course, if you can find the sister building that's identical, that we can replicate everything, literally down to the nail, and
That's completely empty.
basically it's all empty.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And just imagine, visualize this corner of this up and coming neighborhood, and you're going to have these 2 beautiful buildings, right? So this is a win-win-win because our investors are happy, the tenants are happy, the neighbors are happy, right? Because now we're upping the quality of the neighborhood. So it really is, the vision is. We're so passionate about the vision. We're super excited about the fact that it's finally ours. Who said perseverance doesn't work?
Yeah, exactly. Julie had visioned this.
I had manifested it. I've been manifesting it I said, I see this building under our names. I see it under our names, and it's finally happening.
It is happening. So, and we're already looking at buildings next door. So
Yes,
we don't.
we're going to take over the whole neighborhood.
I love it from stalled to kicking. Holy heck. Okay, so oh no, you said something that I was like,
I think Nan was asking, when do we pay out the money, and we can answer that question. One of the main things that was key in this circumstance is that the tenants needed cash in their hands to be able to secure their next apartment. So in that context, they needed their first and last month's rent in hand because none of them had it in the bank. So the cash for keys amount, half of it was given upon signing the N11. The other half was when they handed the keys on moving day. And I knew exactly when that was going to be because I organized all the moves and I was on site.
of course you were.
So I was playing mother hen at the same time. So, that's one of the things that the tenants appreciated is the fact that we were there also to resolve any issues if there were any, right?
Right. Yeah. Because it's overwhelming. And I mean, honestly, I'll tell you the truth. I've hired moving trucks before, not movers, and I've sent them pizza on their moving day. And sometimes I've hired packers for them, but I've never gone. I've never been there. And I know that's, I mean, in our cases, it was different. We were within the law and, we didn't have all of those restrictions. So it's a little bit different, but just that extra, extra step, I'm sure it went, just awesome. So
one of our tenants, Tiffany, brought us a painting that he had made as he was leaving. He came into the office and said, you know what, I really, really appreciate all that you've done for us. And I wanted to leave this for you. And there were a few paintings, right, Sylvia? And we're actually going to frame them and put them in the new, once the building's renovated, we're going to put it up.
As like a physical reminder.
Right. That's right.
I love it. I love it, and so does everyone else. So let me just check here and make sure that we. Oh yeah, where are you located? Go ahead.
Ottawa.
We are in Ottawa, yes. And this building in particular is in Vanier, which is an up and coming but interesting, eclectic, very varied neighborhood in Ottawa.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So here's a question: how do you be a good human when the tenant is difficult, which you had, right? One
Oh yes.
refused to comply and took you through the ringer, such as not abiding by rules, such as smoking in their unit, interfering with other tenants' enjoyment. How would you guys deal with, or are you dealing with those?
Oh, we did. We have had to deal with that, and not just smoking, but it's marijuana smoking as well. And in our case, it didn't impact other tenants because the other tenants had moved out, but it was impacting the contractors and ourselves as the property managers. So
Yeah, we actually had contractors refusing to work because it was in contradiction of their working contract.
Conditions, yeah.
They can't be working in an environment that has drug use or
That you can smell, yeah. all over the
legal
place.
or not. It's against company policy. So
Mhm.
so again, we've done the warnings. There are steps that you can take in Ontario. You have to issue warnings, and issuing warnings in writing and verbal warnings before you submit
And
I guess an infraction or a complaint to the LTP. So you basically start with a verbal warning, then you provide a written warning, and then a few written warnings, and then if nothing changes, then you're in your legal right to go to the LTP with an N5 in this thing, because that's preventing the enjoyment of others of the building.
And the paralegal can really help you along with this as well.
Mhm.
Because our tenant had actually gone to the point where we were not allowed to have any communication with her other than through our paralegal.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, so we hear the end story and we're like, yay, you're doubling the building, you're doubling your rents, plus some, it sounds all awesome, but we've also heard that your weekends, your days, you're all working full time. Your mind power, your paralegal consulting, all of this stuff has gone on, so it's not super easy either. You've definitely worked for it. But you also have had difficult people that didn't make it quite so easy, and yet you found your way through it. You found a way to make it successful. Yeah, and I can't say. So Corey's listening, obviously, because I see this comment. I did not type that. How do we invest with you? And that's the thing, is that as investors, I mean, what better team can we have working for us? I know you guys and I know how you work, and we've known you for how long now, and it's awesome, and how disciplined and amazing you are with everything. But man, when I hear all this stuff in such detail again, I'm just like, whoa, this is crazy.
Well, you have our contact information, and that's a good way of reaching us. Right now, we're about to have a presentation on Thursday to talk about this new building and the investment opportunity there. We're actually going to be raising $2.5 million to get to the finish line on that building. And outside of that, we're also looking at other opportunities. As I said, we're looking at, even the building next door, the other building next door, to see if we can partner with our HVAC contractor who owns that building, and basically see if we can't create a 12-plex on that property. And we're looking at land development deals in Ottawa. So recognizing that we may have gone through the BRRR with the cash for keys and getting rid of the tenants, it's not necessarily for the faint of heart, and we don't want to be doing it 24/7. So we are looking at land development opportunities, a lot of infill, and a lot of properties near the LRT. As you probably know, that Ottawa has a major LRT project underway. So there's a number of opportunities there. So anytime, reach out. We have, we always take time to talk with investors, or just to give some tips to fellow real estate investors that might be new to this and don't know how to go about it. Anytime. And our current set of investors, we actually have a monthly meetup with them, and we're bringing them through the process with us.
Oh, like
We're
teaching them,
actually doing
is it a learning JV, like where they can learn along with you as partners?
So
Yeah.
they've invested cash or RSPs, and they get their interest rate. But on top of that, we bring them along. Every month we have a meetup. It's either a visit on site, or it's how to put in an offer on a multi-unit, or how to plan for a BRRR, and what needs to be considered. We've done that, and a lot of our investors are really happy because they get to learn at the same time. And they get to make money while they sleep, and at the same time they get to see the progress. And some of those same investors are reinvesting with us on the second project.
Yeah.
We're really glad they don't have to do all this.
Oh yes.
I
Yeah.
think most of them.
Thankfully, we still have the energy to do all of this, and we've got a great team, and that's the thing. We
Yeah,
all
that's-
have our jobs, and we kind of get things done.
I can't even imagine doing this alone.
No.
Because we do work full time, but we carve out some time to dedicate to this, and we have a lot of fun doing it together, right? Like we've had some demo parties, and we've had pizza lunches at the demo party, and and it really is, you have to enjoy. I'm always thinking about your comment, Tiffany, about you have to enjoy the journey, right? So if you're not having fun, then move on to a different strategy, right? But I have to say, like, we went away for Christmas, and we were away from all of this for about 8 days. I came back and I said, Sylvie and Andre, I have withdrawal from you guys. Like, I just, like, it's just been so much ingrained in part of our lives now that it's just, it's
like we have a weekly board meeting every Monday night.
At least once a week.
Yeah, we have a board meeting. We go through everything, the construction, the accounting, everything from A to Z. So
Yeah, it's just awesome. And I don't know if you can see some of these comments, but dream team, love. You had me at party, Sarah. Love the smiles. Okay, we're ready. Lots of just awesome stuff. And that's the beauty of partnership, because you wouldn't be able. Well, I mean, you might be able to do it, but really, one of you or maybe two of you would be insane if you continue to go at this on your own. But this way, as much as you're now splitting the pie, and this is one thing people say all the time, well, I don't really want to split that pie. Okay, but you've got way more pie to split, and you enjoy the journey. You're still smiling. You can continue doing it rather than do one on your own and be like, wow, what the heck was that? And I'm never doing it again.
right.
Yeah, and it goes back to the old saying, right? I'd rather own, half of 10 than 100% of none.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I love the one where it's like, would you rather own your own grape, your whole grape, or half a watermelon? Like, when I heard that years and years ago, I was like, it was one of those ding moments, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Exactly.
anyways, thank you guys. Any last words of wisdom you want to share with us? You've given us so much already, but anything for people getting into it?
Don't forget to be a good human in everything you do. And join us on Thursday. We will be, is it okay for us to advertise on Fearless, Tiffany?
Sure. Yeah, go for it. Get it in there.
We'll be posting the details about the event on Thursday. So please come join us. Whether you invest or not, just come join us. Be part of our party, and hear more about this wonderful project that we have going. Yeah.
Okay, so they can email you about this, lifeinvestment to Gmail, and it's Thursday at what time?
Thursday at 7
p.m.
Eastern Standard Time. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and keep rolling and keep us apprised of what you're doing, because it's very, very exciting. So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It was great,
everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, guys. So next week we've got another awesome one. This time it is Darren Mitchell joining us. We will have a life it's about a whole life policy and how you can make it really work for you. Use it as your own bank. So Darren Mitchell's joining us next week. If you haven't heard his presentations before, you should definitely join us. It's one of those, game changers for sure. So, all right, we will see you guys next week. Everyone have a great week. Igniteds, we'll see you over in Laser. And we will see you over for our mastermind as well after Laser. So we'll see you guys over there. Everyone have a great week.